Somebody.
Right. Well, welcome everyone. I hereby open us up for the City of Travelers City Council meeting for Thursday, September 8th. We appreciate everyone being here and our guests. If you will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and I'll ask Councilmember Chris to please pray for council.
Okay, thank you. Please bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come together today with hearts full of gratitude for the opportunity to serve our community. We thank you for the gifts of wisdom, compassion, and resilience that you've given to us, and we ask for your guidance as we conduct the work before us. Lord, we pray for the well-being of our city and its people. Bless those who call this community home and those who work tireless to make it better. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Shanice. All right. If we could have approval of our council meeting minutes from August the 21st. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Second by Sherry. Any edits? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Citizen participation, we have none. For our, before we do our ordinances and resolutions, I would like to make a motion for us to move our first try-on financial advisor meeting. I think it'd be great if we put it right after the committee reports. We still have one individual who's stuck in a little bit of traffic, and so if that's good with council, I will move it. Is that fine?
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, so ordinances and resolutions for second reading, we have none. We will move into our committee reports. First up, we have Personnel Committee Chair Chris.
All right, the Personnel Committee met on September 8th. We reviewed the following from the September meeting. Dr. Campbell with Management Advisory Group gave a presentation of the recent compensation study and put forth recommendations including an updated pay scale. The committee moved to recommend pay scale to full council for a vote.
Thank you. Now we have Public Works Committee Chair Lane.
The Public Works Committee met September 8th and approved the August 11th minutes. Flower beds throughout the city have been rebedded, with more occurring throughout the month. The next shred event is on November 15th. Swamp Rabbit Trail extension is slated for completion in December, and the northbound lane is slated for completion in a few weeks. The next phase includes the closure of the Tubbs Mountain intersection.
Thank you, Lisa. Public Safety Committee Vice Chair Chris.
Okay, the Public Safety Committee met on September 8th and approved the August 11th minutes. The committee reviewed the following from the police. Police completed 332.7 hours of training in August. Lieutenant Donnelly and Sergeant Lawless are attending advanced training at the Police Academy to qualify as basic instructors so they can assist in developing lesson plans for in-service training and for other approved programs. For fire, the department is fully staffed, and call volume continues to increase, with much of that attributed to medical calls. And for building permits have continued to slow down.
Thank you, Chair Chris. Planning and Development Committee, Vice Chair Kelly Byers is out, so I will read that for her. The Planning and Development Committee met on September 8th and approved the August 11th minutes. The final plat for White Hawk Meadows Phase 1B has been recorded. The refuge and villas at North Valley are still pending but are close to finalizing. The city is exploring many grants to help support maintenance and operations of future park projects. The RFQ for the Park Master Plan is going out soon, which is exciting. The city is partnering with Trees Upstate for a fall planting of 50 trees in October. All right, Ways and Means, Chair Baumgartner.
The Ways and Means Committee met September 8th and approved the August 11th minutes. The Ways and Means Committee worked through many ordinances and a resolution, including the budget amendment that will be, be discussed shortly. That ends my report. However, all of us have received the August financial report. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? All right, thank you.
All right, now we will invite first try-on financial advisors. Are we still waiting? Okay, great. Please hold on that. We'll come back to it. All right, we will move into our ordinances and resolutions for first reading. We have a local match from Municipal Association South Carolina big grant idea. Is that me or?
That would be me.
Okay, Grant's up on that one.
So I have a motion to approve a resolution R04-25, committing the City of Travelers Rest to providing a local match for a Municipal Association of South Carolina Big Idea Grant.
Okay, you've heard that motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Lisa. Any further discussion?
Let me give you all a brief description what this is. This new grant from MASC that could fund up to $100,000 for the Dicey Park site work to set the statue and initiate the botanical gardens and charters of freedom. The grant requires a 5% match. The money for this is currently allocated in the capital funds budget. The maximum match would be then $5,000. That is my description.
Any comments? Okay, this is pretty exciting with the Municipal Association we learned about this summer. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Grant, I think all of these are yours, actually. Yeah, business license
I
ordinance.
have a motion to approve at first reading ordinance O-12-25, amending the business license ordinance of the City of Travelers Rest to update the class schedule as required by Act 176 of 2020.
Okay, you heard that motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second with Lisa. You can give us a summary on that one, too?
I do. Summary is this: Act 176 requires every municipality to amend their business license ordinance to include the change in the NAICS code, the North American Industrial Classification System, which happens every 2 years, and result in a class schedule change, or can result in a class schedule change. City business licenses are classified according to their NAICS code. These changes will not go into effect until renewals in the spring of 2026. So that means if we have any businesses in the city that, because of our adopting this, are changed in classification, they will not be charged additional money this year. It will come up as in next year's business licenses. And we're required to do this by the state, by the way.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. General fund budget.
All right, I have a motion to amend O-13-25 to remove the $49,753 payment for the 2020 GEO Bond Series C in-depth service. The last payment for this GEO bond was in April of 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, so this is different from where we were last time. We found out, the good thing, that $49,753 payment was the last payment we have on this GEO bond, and it was made this last year. So it needs to come off of our budget for this year. So we can take that off. Ultimately, what's going to happen is now we can take less money from our reserve account.
And we'll be able to talk to our financial advisors if we have some additional questions about financing and those type things. But any further discussion there?
So this, by the way, this is the amendment to our amendment.
Okay.
So we have to approve this amendment first before we approve the grand amendment of the general fund budget.
Okay, which is coming later. Okay.
And if I can add, just kind of make it simple for folks out there, always keep in mind that a budget is a constantly moving thing. I mean, a budget, it moves, according to needs, according to availability. There's many things that can cause that. So when you hear us amending a budget, don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing. I mean, it's, like I say, a budget is always, it's a kind of like a moving document, really.
Yeah, we
Moving
get new
target.
information like this, for example, that we make new decisions with. It's great. Anyone else? All in favor? Okay, motion carries. All right, last ordinances for
So with that
local
motion
hospitality.
done, now my motion is to approve the first reading ordinance 0-13-25, amending the fiscal year 2026 general fund budget to include the rate fee schedule and CIP program, to include the previous amendment to the GO Bond Series C debt service payment that we just made.
You've heard that motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion there? You want to give us a summary?
This is the summary that we talked about in last Monday, and we're going to do the, you know what, I'm going to let my city administrator handle this a little bit better, because of all that's involved with all of this, I know, but she can explain it better than I can. Please?
Yes, sir. This is just an amendment to clean up a couple small things that we have identified since we've passed our budget, and to to put into place a salary adjustment for the city based on the recommendations of MAG, which came in, Dr. Campbell, who came in last time. There's a couple small opportunities to improve funding for lighting on Main Street, to improve our deferred maintenance, and significantly, this is you are approving the utilization of the H-tax revenue bond that you passed quite a bit of time ago for the completion of the Poinsett project. In bringing that into the fold for financial use, it brings our accounts into a much better standing and allows us to do a couple more things.
Thank you, ma'am. I didn't have that in front of me, that's why.
My apologies.
This is our presentation that you made to us essentially in
Correct.
this motion. Yeah, great. Any further discussion? And again, first reading, we still have more time, and then we'll have a second reading next month. All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you for that. All right, next grant.
I make a motion to approve at first reading ordinance 0-14-25, amending the fiscal year 2026 local hospitality tax fund and local accommodations tax fund budget.
All right, you've heard that motion. We have a second?
Second.
Second.
This also are for the expenses that we discussed this last Monday that are,
Councilmember Baumgartner, if you don't mind, I'd love to jump in here. So in addition to bringing our capital fund into excellent standing, that reduces our need for utilization of hospitality tax and accommodations tax coming into the capital fund. So you'll see those kind of roll down. The budget salary does allow us to utilize a small amount or up to 50% of our hospitality tax for police salaries. We're only asking for a very small additional contribution. It's still less than we originally planned to utilize out of the hospitality tax, so you'll see that fund grow at a better rate overall, and then we accomplish all the goals of the budget with the salary amendments.
previous years, we have moved monies from both of these funds into our general fund, and we're simply able to reduce that amount, keep it in the fund.
Any further discussion, questions? Shane, would you mind sending that presentation to us? Sorry if you already did.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
We can do that. It's in the minutes, and as well, we can pull it up right now. We have it if
Oh,
there's
that's
any
okay.
questions.
It's nice to look at it later.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. All in favor? All right. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Old business, we have none. New business, is it okay now if we go into our okay. All right. You guys come on up. We've got First Try On Financial Advisors, Andy Smith and Jordan, is it Keyser? Kaiser. Okay. I tried and sorry about that. No, we appreciate you guys being here tonight. You have the floor. I've already warned Andy Smith that we had some nerds on council, that we really like this financial stuff, so.
We love nerds. We're all
Yeah.
about models, but that is why I had to wait for Jordan to get here, because they don't let me touch the model. I can talk about it all day long and why we need it and all those types of things. We are just privileged to be here. It's Travelers Rest is a wonderful community. I go way back with Travelers Rest. When I was a freshman at Furman, I looked up in the cafeteria the very first day, and there was this girl that had a T-shirt on that said "Devil Dogs." She didn't look mean, but I had to ask her, what is a devil dog? And she gave me the whole history of Travelers Rest and how it got its name and everything else. You fast forward about 25 years, 30 years, and I was with BB&T Governmental Finance. Governmental lender, ran our group, just lending to cities, counties, and towns all over South Carolina, and got to work on the hospitality tax deal with Teresa Cawley, your former municipal advisor, for the streetscaping and the Swamp Rabbit Trail and all that. Fast forward another 10 years, my back-to-back 4 years apart daughters both went to Furman, and they just wore my credit card out in Travelers Rest, dumping all sorts of hospitality tax revenue into your coffers.
Thank you,
So I
yeah.
think, actually, my youngest, I know when she turned 21 particularly, she probably paid about a third of your debt service on that deal. So,
It's great.
great community, though. Always love working with Travelers Rest. We are first-time advisors. We have about 350 clients up and down the eastern seaboard, but our particular group focuses on local governments, what I call core local governments, cities, counties, towns, school districts in South Carolina and North Carolina. I'm in Columbia, Jordan's, and Charlotte. In South Carolina, for example, we have a team of about 20 of us total that work on local government issues. And in South Carolina, we have about 150 clients or so. And that would be, I have, along with Jordan, we have Travelers Rest, Malden, Simpsonville, Greenville County, Newberry, Spartanburg County, Pickens, and just a number of the assorted fire districts up here. I worked closely with Teresa Cawley, who was your former municipal advisor, and she retired, and we bought her firm. And so we worked so closely over the years, I wound up with her wonderful client base. So that's kind of a little bit about us. A couple of things before Jordan goes through a capital planning model. You might be wondering, I don't know if anybody ever stopped and told you why you might have a financial advisor, and actually the correct term, we've been corrected recently by the feds, is municipal advisor. Because when I say financial advisor, you might think we're going to talk about your investments and all that kind of stuff. We can, but that's not predominantly what we do. We focus a little bit more on your existing financial picture, where you're going, natural growth rates, those types of things, but most importantly, also your capital improvement plan and how you plan on getting where you're going, okay? Anybody can come in, and we are very, very similar to what Teresa did for the city in terms of our approach. Anybody can come in and take you to market. If you called and said, I got to have a fire station, I know exactly what I need, $3 million, I need a 15-year deal. We can go to banks, or we can go to the public market, whatever we need to do, and get you the money. Anybody can do that. Your previous municipal advisor, very much like our firm, wasn't interested in just that, because anytime you talk about just a project like that in a silo, you really haven't done what you should be doing, okay? We're very, we can go to market as good or better than anybody, but we love to do the capital planning on the front end, because if we had that discussion about your fire station and we finished that deal and you called me, a month later and said, what about our police substation? I'm like, what police substation? And we might have given different advice if we had known that there were other projects there. So we have developed this capital planning model, and we've probably done, what, Jordan, 120 of these for our clients?
Probably.
And selfishly, we like to do this because it helps us when it is time to do a project to make sure that we are giving you good advice and that it doesn't adversely affect your existing or future financial picture. Just briefly before he models it for you or does the demo for you, what we do is this. We take your last 5 years of historical data, every single line from your audits, revenues, expenditures, and we load all that in, and we look at all the growth rates or declination rates if you went down in some areas, whatever might be the case. And then we use those numbers and try to project out, if you don't do anything differently, what are your natural growth rates? And so you can't say a hospitality tax grew at 5% a year, but we think it's going to grow at 15. No, that's not a wise move. And so we put that in there. So you've got this big background. And in this model, that's all in the background. You've got the 5 years of historical stuff, and you got the 5 years of the next 5 years, just estimates if you don't change anything dramatically. Now, if you know all of a sudden you get announced you're getting 9 Chick-fil-A's or whatever, you can go in and change the number, okay? But just reasonable numbers. When that's done, what we do is we stress test the model, okay? And we stress test it with your capital improvement plan, okay? And that doesn't mean you're borrowing money for everything on your CIP. You might be cash funding items on there. But we load all these items in, and we turn them on, and we stress test your financial picture. And it shows you what you can afford, in what sequence, and what changes you have to make to afford certain items. And he'll demonstrate a dashboard for you, which I think you'll be very, very interested in. You might have that one citizen that says, why do we have a fund balance like this? We don't need that, okay? Well, we've got that on our dashboard here. So, all right, we're going to build this fire station, but let's don't finance any of it. Let's just do it all with cash. We got too much fund balance. You hit that, load the project in, you turn it on, you're going to see that it drops below your required fund balance policy line. and you can see it visually, it takes the emotion out of the room, because everybody that gets elected has certain areas that you're more interested in than other areas. And so to be able to see, when you talk about the fire station, and you see what happens when you, okay, not only building the fire station, we have an impact tab. We have to add 4 firefighters. What does that do to our fund balance 4 years from now? And that's what this model does. It gives you a wonderful repository of where we've been, where we're going if we don't change anything, okay, just natural stuff, and then stress test it with our list of projects at different times. Jordan?
Yeah, thank you, Andy, and thank you for having us. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of take you through what we've built out for the city. We've been working hard with both Shannon and Carson over the last several months to build out the model, which now includes the 2026 budget and all of the city's existing debt. So just to kind of take you through some of the key tabs in here, existing debt service tab. So this tab here, I'll zoom in a little bit. Hopefully y'all can see it okay, but this has all of the city's existing debt. So, you know, master leases, general obligation bonds, hospitality and accommodations bonds. We've got all of it set up. Just to kind of zoom in on one of them, here's your 2017 accommodations and hospitality revenue bonds. So we've got, first thing that we can do is we can select, okay, which fund is going to pay the debt service on this? This one happens to be paid, the debt service is paid from the hospitality tax fund, so we have that selected. And then we have the interest rates, the principal payments, and the interest payments going out until maturity. So we have kind of that setup for all of the city's outstanding debt, including the 2 most recent debt issues that the city did, the 2025 GO bond, that's a $203,000 GO bond, and then the 2025 master lease, which is about $1.5 million. So all of that is flowing through the model, and it's flowing into whichever fund we have tagged here. So let me go to one of those funds. So that's where we maintain the existing debt of the city, and then we also are tracking some of the key funds. So this model currently tracks the general fund, the hospitality tax fund, accommodations tax fund, and the capital projects fund. So just to kind of show you how a fund is set up, we'll click on the general fund tab. And what we always do, as Andy mentioned, is we load up historical data first. That allows us to kind of look at each line item, revenues and expenditures, and kind of see how have these line items been performing. That kind of helps us be able to project forward each of those line items as well. So, you know, this lines up very closely to the kind of the detailed version of your audited financials in the kind of towards the back of your audit. So we're showing, you know, property tax revenues, accommodations taxes, manufacturers taxes. We're showing, you know, licenses and permits, other income, that's the revenues. And then on the expenditure side, we're showing a full breakout, you know, all the administrative related expenses, mayor and council related expenses, you know, non-departmental, kind of the whole way, all the operating expenses. Continuing to just scroll down on this tab, once we get past the operating expenses, we're showing, you know, capital items, and then again, debt service. So any existing debt service, principal and interest payments that are tagged to the general fund set up on that existing debt tab are also flowing through here. So, you know, we're tracking all the operating revenues, all the operating expenses, capital expenses, and debt service. And that kind of helps us to figure out, okay, what is our projected surplus or deficit in the fund? And we can take it a step further and we can look at, okay, transfers in and out of the fund. So, you know, right now for the 2026 budget, we're assuming a $265,000 transfer in from the hospitality tax fund, a $70,000 transfer in from the accommodations tax fund, and then about $10,000 coming in from some other funds. And then ultimately, we're able to track fund balance levels kind of based on all of those inputs. And I'll go back up, and, you know, like I said, we've got historical data from 2020 to 24. We've got the 25 budget in. You know, soon once we have estimated actuals, we'll enter those in. But right now, what we're doing is we're projecting off of the 2026 budget, which is in this column here. So we've got the 2026 budget. You know, those amounts hard-coded in, and then 2027 and on are basically projected off of that budget based on the inputs, the growth rate inputs that are hard-coded in here in column D. And we've worked with Shannon and Carson to figure out, okay, what kind of growth rates do we want to assume for each of these line items, both on the revenue side and the expenditure side. Those are the key, you know what, I'll show you one more thing. So that covers existing debt service and all the fund tab, that's the general fund, but all the, the hospitality tax, accommodations tax, and capital projects, those funds are all set up the same way. We also have this tab called the CIP tab. This is where we're tracking some of your future capital projects that are going to be funded from either cash or PAYGO or grants. So you'll see we've got several projects loaded in, most of them, tagged to the capital projects fund. I think we've got one project loaded in for the hospitality tax fund. That's park master plan improvements. So we've got all the projected, cash funded amounts or grant funded amounts, and those again are flowing through the model as well. Go to the dashboard. Once we get all these inputs in, the place that you can really kind of spend most of your time is on this dashboard. I'm going to zoom out really quickly and I'm going to zoom back in because I know it's really small, but just to show you kind of what is on this dashboard. There's 3 sections. This section here is where you can enter in debt-funded projects, and I can show you how that works. This section in the middle is where we have some dashboard graphics, so you can see existing debt service requirements for any fund that you select. You can track your 8% debt capacity to see how much general obligation debt you could issue without doing a referendum, and then of course you can track fund balance levels, a change in fund balance levels, or fund balance levels. And Andy mentioned before you can establish a target, so we can set something like that up where you've got a horizontal line going across representing the target fund balance that you want to maintain. And then over here to the right, what we're doing here is this is where we're projecting property tax revenues based on millage rates and value of 1 mil. And so we've got the estimated existing millage of 82.3 mils. We have the new value of a mill loaded in, and then we have projected growth going forward. And so this property tax calculation kind of feeds back into the general fund property tax line. And then right here, we've got set up just a ratio of just fund balance in the general fund. So this looks at unassigned fund balance as a percentage of revenue. And so you can, based on all the projections and all the inputs that are set up in the model, you can see in any year in the future, where are we projected to land in that ratio. And so we can establish a target. Right now it's set up at 50%. And if the model projects that you're going to fall under that in any year, it flashes in red. We happen to just see this in 2026, but it's just below it at 49.4%. Very strong still. Last thing I'll show you, just this section right here, projects under consideration. This is where we would set up future debt issues that we might want to account for. And so I'll turn these on. If you have anything turned off on this model, it's not going to flow through the model. So you can set up a lot of different scenarios, and then once you turn it on, then all of a sudden it's flowing through the model. So a couple projects, we just did a master lease for some vehicles and equipment recently, and kind of the base case in this model assumes more vehicles and equipment in the future. We've got some set up for 2028, where we're just assuming a 5-year master lease at a 4% interest rate. If we want to say let's assume it's going to be a 5% interest rate just to be conservative, we can do that on the fly, and we can kind of look. Again, all of that flows through the model, and we can kind of see, like if I were to select capital projects fund, I could even see what is the projected debt service on that 2028 master lease.
That's one thing I'd add, when he turned that project on, it does it on the fly. Back in the old days, you'd call me and you say, we're going to do a master lease. Can you bring us a payment schedule and show what it looks like for 5 years? And then you would say, I don't want to do it for 5 years. I want to do it for 3, and I want twice as much money. I'll see you next month, and I'll bring back
Yeah.
And so to be able to do this, and then also to be able to see when you do it on the fly, what it does, and that dashboard are the things that are just kind of sacrosanct to you. When basic things that are good best practices between fund balances, days cash on hand, whatever is important to you to put up there. But to have it change on the fly like that really is the big benefit of the project.
Yep. So, and then one other thing too that we can show you is, again, once we have all these inputs in, we got some scenarios that we're looking at. The next question might be, okay, well, where would we compare against our peer group, for example? If we kind of put all of this in place and move forward with this plan, where do we kind of stack up against peers? So we have this peer analysis functionality set up in the model where you can go into, sorry about that, go into this peer tab and you can set up a peer group. So you can say, okay, let's look at peers in South Carolina. Let's look at cities and towns, populations of, less than 20,000. And then you can also sort it by credit rating too. So that kind of gives you a peer group. Then you can go to this peer charts tab, look at how the city compares against that peer set that you just set up. So, I mentioned unassigned fund balance as a percentage of revenues earlier. That's a common financial ratio like that the credit rating agencies look at. So let's focus on that one. So, right now the orange bar, so as of, your most recent audited year, so 2024, your ratio is about 52.4%. So you can quickly see, okay, where do we fall? Where do we stack up against that peer group? So strong, I would say. You've got a couple that are higher than the 52, but for the most part, 50, that ratio is strong relative to the peer group. We know that we've got some leases that just went out. You did the master lease this year. We've got the model saying that we're going to do another master lease in 2028. So how about we look out in 2029 and see where we're going to be in 2029? That would be this gray bar here, and it's showing still 50%. And again, that's based on all the revenue growth and expenditure growth, capital projects, everything. So that's just another functionality that the
And
model
then
has.
if you'd load projects in like that for equipment and vehicles, and you weren't going to do the lease, and you did cash, then obviously that'll be affected. Everything just flows through automatically, so you can see what the changes are. So you can toy with it and look at your options and kind of have perfect knowledge ahead of time.
Yep. Anything else, Andy, that I failed to mention there?
Yeah, one thing I would do is I would go back to the dashboard and I would show just a decent sized cash project and show how it reflects the change in fund balance.
Yeah.
We had a really good experience, needless to say, working with Carson and Shannon in getting the inputs here, particularly with growth rates, anticipated growth rates, because like any model, the outputs are as good as the inputs. And so that's one reason, while he's doing that, that's one reason we help update this annually with your new audits and with budgets and all that, and then take another look when we see where you landed, where you performed. Do any of those growth rates need to be adjusted going forward? Because, as we said, when you're you might go into this and decide we want to pay cash for this, this, and this, and then you say, wait a minute, 3 years from now, the COLA we had in there, we're not going to be able to afford that under our policies if we do it this way. So let's look at another option. If the inputs are good, you can do that.
If I were to just spend $2 million out of the capital projects fund, you can immediately see the impact of the fund balance kind of starts to go negative. So kind of gives you the ability to just quickly, run something, see the impact, and then kind of make adjustments based on what you can quickly see from the dashboards.
You guys, I'm curious if I could start off with some questions on our existing debt. How are we set up for borrowing capacity? Are we in a good spot? And then I'm curious about how much interest we're paying, because it was different when it was like 2%, but now it's like 4%. So I'm just kind of curious on just how much we're paying in existing debt.
You got the rates in there, or you got the credit profile?
I don't have a credit profile set up, but I would say though that one thing that we could look at is your 8% debt capacity. So you have plenty of debt capacity.
Okay.
As far as like from a from the standpoint of how much you can actually borrow general obligation bonds each year, again without going to a referendum. If we look at this chart here, because really outstanding right now in general obligation debt is just the one bond issue that we just did. That will mature, I think, in March. So you'll kind of free up you'll have full capacity again. But that's a function of your assessed value. So 8% of your assessed value you can kind of borrow or have outstanding at any time. So This says here you've got about $3.2 million of debt capacity, and so you're only utilizing about $204,000 of
Okay.
it. So from that standpoint, that,
Not
yeah, go
bad.
ahead.
No, that's good. And we would have to go through a separate analysis on other funds, for example, like hospitality tax, because your bond documents will have a certain coverage ratio that you have to have. And so we can back into that and show you what your capacity is on any one of those.
No, that's
But-
great. I
but-
think I'm mostly just curious about we're a fiscally conservative
Oh, I know.
council, as you know, but just like, if we need it, it is there for projects in the future.
I will tell you, your rates are good on your existing debt. We did a debt profile when we first started all this, and we will do an update with including the GO bond, and we'll send it to you, and then Shannon can just distribute it. But we check all the time for refunding opportunities. Obviously, there's nothing there yet, but hopefully, in the next few months.
Okay,
So,
great.
Yeah, and looking at hospitality, for example, I'm in that fund right now, so, annual debt service payments are around $520,000 per year. You're generating, say, about $1.5 million, and then you're spending in operating expenses a little bit as well. But even after your operating expenses and your debt service, you're still projected to generate a surplus in that hospitality tax fund. So I think, to me, that says that you've got capacity
Right.
for hospitality-related debt.
Anyone else on council have any questions?
I do. First off, this is very interesting. I really like it. When you look at the peer institutions, where are you getting that data? I know the budgets are publicly available, but you said it's just as good as the input. So is it just clients or all cities and towns?
We get this from, our firm has a subscription to Moody's Investor Service, so that's one of the big rating agencies out there. So we've got access to basically any city or county or any entity that Moody's has a credit rating on. They have all of this information, and we have access to the information, so we pull it from their database, drop it into the model, and that's something that we would do annually, because they're going to update. Moody's will update their information as each year as new audits come out. So what's in here now is what's available from Moody's, but we can always, if the city says, okay, we just want to look at 5 or 6 specific peers and say that some of those or all of those don't have ratings by Moody's, we can go into their audits and manually set up those ratios.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And since this is through Moody's, this is all public information anyway, because it's all publicly produced and published information that every city has to do. It's just a matter of you getting the hands on it.
That's right. And any of the cities or towns that aren't included in there, we can pull their audits off of the website typically and just load it in. But the formula's already built in so that it'll calculate those ratios so you can have the peer comps. Yep.
Anyone else? Council have any questions?
I'm excited for Carson and Shannon. I mean, this is going to, as finance chair and worked on these budgets for these many years, y'all, this is going to trim their amount of energy that they have to put in. It's going to make it so much easier. I'm real impressed.
It's a great budgeting tool. Another thing I'd add there is if they didn't have anything to do for the next month and could just, could build spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet, they could do that. But that's what we do. We take that off your plate. Last thing I'd leave you with is it's a repository of information that's real valuable to new council members coming in, new staff coming in, because it evergreens every year. We just update it. And so you can look back and see where you've been, where you're going, and then stress test the system. And it's all in one spot. It's not in 1,000 different spreadsheets. And so it's, we've seen that, that's a compliment that we get a lot of the times when somebody has, like maybe you hire like an assistant finance director, or you have somebody come, accounts payable person, that needs access to information.
I'll even say this, some of you saw maybe some blanks on some of the years previous that didn't have dollar figures in there that now do have dollar figures, and that's one of the things that Eric and I have been working on, that he specifically was trying to cut. We had so much that was lumped in within several funds and several line items that he started breaking them out so that we could keep track of them better, and it shows up in your spreadsheet that way. That's the very reason that we were doing it, not knowing that we needed.
And then going forward, if you need further breakouts, we can integrate those as well. So
That was kind of my question I was going to have. So you helped Shannon and Carson put this all together. Now going forward, what does that entail with Tryon?
Yeah, what it entails is we offer to update it every year, and we just do that on an hourly basis. And so we just use your new budget, your new audits, and then we also go in and we'll come and sit down with you guys and monitor, okay, what does it look like with the growth rates? And so that essentially does it. And of course, and that's an annual thing, but
Okay.
the process of, okay, let's look at your CIP, where are you on things? You know, because we've got these 9 projects listed, and you thought you might do one in 28, and she'll say, well, you know, we decided we're going to push that to 29. So we push it to 29, and we see what it does to the whole model. And sometimes it's like, okay, we need to find $200,000. So can we, you know, we'll go ahead and do this financing, but let's make it an interest-only payment for a year or two. You know, you can integrate all that stuff into this and play with all the different options. And Jordan particularly is very, very good at that. And so, you know, that's what we love to do, where somebody comes to us and says, okay, we got 5 projects and we've got 6 different revenue sources. Help us figure it out. And that's what this tool is particularly good for.
I assume Shannon and Carson will come to you guys after we have our yearly vision planning and capital projects, and then be like, okay, what can we do with the dreams that council has for the city? So,
They've gotten really good with it. We're going to take them on the road.
okay, good. Yeah.
Awesome.
A quick thought. As far as our credit rating, how would you summarize that?
Yeah, you guys are, go ahead, Jordan.
Well, I don't have any of the credit rating.
You don't have a rating.
Yeah, we have credit rating,
Ratio.
you know, ratios like that they would look at, and that's kind of, we have set up on the peer charts. So like if you had a rating and we were looking at, you know, like fund balance related ratios, for example, would be very strong. And even the debt metrics, I think, would be very strong too. I think
Are we at A+, an A
I was like,
minus?
well,
What we can,
Moody.
well, what we can do is we sort of reverse engineered the Moody's process. We can drop some of your data in just to estimate where we think you would land.
Member Mayor, that's a fantastic question, and it's actually something that I've spent some time talking with Councilmember Baumgardner and Mayor Amadon about. Is that I think a great goal for the city is to establish a credit rating. You know, the city's been small, and so hasn't taken on projects that required credit ratings. You've been able to finance through, you know, local entities that didn't require that. But and I talked with Teresa Colley when I first got on here, and Andy and Jordan. What does it take, and are we taking the steps? And so that's when Carson and I started paying a lot of attention to the fund balance, as the unassigned fund balance. And so that's probably our key metric, right? What's available to us if and when we need it. Specifically, if you had a catastrophe happen, is the entity that you're borrowing from still going to get their money back? And another step that we took towards that this year was putting that 2% catastrophe disaster reserve account in there. So 2% of our budget will be funded. We're getting that money from the funds that we are reimbursed. Philip's doing a great job here. Reimbursed from FEMA with Hurricane Helene. We went ahead and we were able to pay out of pocket as we went. It really didn't hurt our budget as much as we thought it was going to. So that gives us a jump start. We already had a cash reserve fund, and we're just adding to that. So we're kind of building in these layers that I would anticipate maybe in the next few years, 3 to 5 years, we begin looking at how do we get a credit rating.
Usually your credit rating is tied to a deal that's larger, to financing that's larger that you're taking to the market. But we've had some folks who stand alone request. In fact, we've got one we're working on right now that Jordan's working with the City of York. The same situation where they've had mostly bank-placed debt. They're really, really healthy, and they just want to see where they stand, particularly because they've got utility stuff too. But
I'm thinking too, as we grow in population, our next step to get like a fire station 2 or a substation, and kind of, I mean, we really almost need to go ahead and start planning for that part.
yeah, and they do take into account your capital planning. They want all that information. And from your metrics, though, they really look at, obviously, you got some basic metrics you need to hit, good, healthy fund balance, things along those lines, good general fund growth, but they look at trends. We'll send some information out. We are sure it's just a home run. They'll say, well, wait a minute, their fund balance dropped by 4%. Like, look at it. And so, you know, it's just mostly a conversation point. But we have the data, the metrics that they use, and how they weight those different metrics, and can kind of project out where you'd land, where you sit. So
And to be clear, we're not promising a second fire station. I saw my fire guys get a little excited back there, so just take it down a notch, Sherry. Sherry, think about the audience before you say stuff, so. No, we really appreciate you guys coming to, I know you
Certainly.
both drove to come here, and it really does make a difference in a personal touch. So
anytime.
it's nice to see you guys. And if we on council have any questions, we could send it to Shannon and Carson and forward it your way, but we appreciate it. This is
Certainly.
very smart. It gives me peace of mind, as I'm sure council it does, that all these smart people are looking after our money.
Yeah, I
So
think-
we appreciate it.
I think
Yeah.
you sleep well if you know, okay, if we do this, this is going to happen. The sky's not going to fall, but this is going to happen. And so we're good with this, or whatever the case may be. So,
Yeah, I don't think
Um,
we've ever been this sophisticated in our forward future planning for big projects. This is exciting.
And we'll send you that debt profile that shows all your
Great.
different financings and the rates and terms and maturity dates and all that.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jordan. We appreciate
for
it.
having us.
All right.
you.
All right, so we will move into our new business. We have our fiber agreement. I think that's on me with Loomis. Franchise agreement. I make a motion to approve. Is it Loomis or Loomis? Loomis franchise agreement. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Shanice. I'll give a brief description. We talked about this last week. This is a franchise agreement that sets operational boundaries within the city. A representative from Loomis was here, and I don't think they're here tonight, but if we have any additional questions, we have Shannon and Carson. Do we have any additional questions? All right, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. Thank you for that. That's exciting. And I guess just keep us updated on where they decide to land and what that looks like and who gets to sign up for it first to test that out.
Missed one, Brandy.
Gotta back up to B.
You need to back up and do B.
Oh, look, got like a little cutoff on my sheet. Hold on one second. Okay, thank you. Approval of the pay bands. Thank you for that, Wayne. All right, do I hear a motion for approval of our pay bands
Yes, motion to,
as presented? Okay, I'm
oh,
sorry.
sorry. Motion to move to approve the 2026 compensation study pay table as shared in the packets. Is there a second?
Second.
All
Okay.
right, further discussion, questions? Want to give a summary or anything to add to that, Shannon?
Mayor Allen, thank you so much. This is the pay table that was established after study by MAG. Dr. Campbell presented the background of how that study was done at our last committee meeting. A note here, this does set, minimums, midpoints, and maximums. We try to be competitive across the board in all three areas. Specifically, I think the greatest opportunity for Travelers Rest with this new is the ability to pay our mid-level employees in mid-position a little better. That's something that we could have gotten really much more competitive on. So we're looking forward to that. Just because we have a pay band sheet doesn't mean we have to hit the pay band sheet. So council's not obligating themselves to pay this amount, but this is our target trajectory. What you have presented in the budget amendment does cover bringing all of our employees to the minimums that are presented here at best, or at least to the minimums.
And that's as of January 1st.
That will go into effect January 1st.
Any further conversation, discussion? All right, all in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. This is a good thing, All right, D, funding approval for glass recycling grant through South Carolina Department of
I make a
Environmental
motion to
Services.
approve funding from the Glass Recycle Grant through the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services.
Okay, you've heard that motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, second by Lisa.
This is a grant that will help the city continue the successful glass recycling events. Director Tate will have more information on how the grant will be used at the November committee meeting, and I believe that Director Tate was the one who put this all together also, correct?
Councilmember Baumgartner, absolutely. The glass recycling has been an extremely popular service in the city. We are the only city that offers glass recycling, and Director Tate put all of this programming together. The greatest obstacle to the regular intervals of glass recycling has been the vendor's ability to collect it and bring it back to his shop. This particular grant, Philip put together on our behalf to largely purchase a dump trailer that we can collect the glass at regular intervals. It creates a regular, stable event for our citizens to participate in, and we can deliver it at a time within a couple day period that works for our staff to ensure that we're able to continue this service. It is a 1-year obligation that we'll be under to keep going with this glass vendor. We will continue it as long as we can. I would say that glass recycling is piloting. And it hasn't really taken off as a huge service, but our citizens really love it. So we feel very energized that we can offer this special service here.
I get asked about this a good bit, so, great.
Director Tate, thank you for the
Very
work to
much.
put
Yes.
into this. This is
Really smart.
absolutely awesome for our citizens. And we're kind of sitting up here getting to take the credit for it when you've done all the work. Thank you, sir.
All right, anything else? Motion to approve? All right, all in favor? Great, thank you. Miscellaneous matters. Shannon, do we have any administrative updates?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm done. I've got a list of things that Beth has me to be able to share with you. First of all, the church parking lot will be closed on September 22nd. Topsoil is having an event. We'll make sure to get notification of that out. Plans are underway for the holiday hop and Christmas market. National Night Out is moved to October 7th. Please mark your calendars for that and pray for good weather. Scarecrow applications are pouring in, and the scarecrows will be on display from October 4th to October 31st. Downtown trick-or-treating is planned for October 25th. And we do have several of our fantastic fire team with us, so I'd like to acknowledge them being here tonight. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your service and excellent work all the time.
Thank you. All right, I had a few notes. Teresa Howard gets Employee of the Day for giving us some York peppermint patties, so thank you for that. She takes such good care of us, thank you. We did. Shanice, I hate to put you on the spot. Would you mind giving a summary of the Dicey with the Greenville Symphony Orchestra that
Oh,
you?
sure.
Yeah, I forgot about that last week, if you wouldn't mind giving us an update.
Yes, so the Greenville Symphony Orchestra is doing a partnership with young ladies in Travelers Rest, and they get to work with their composer to help contribute to a piece that will honor Dicey. So we'll have some of our local young ladies that'll be part of that, and they'll be featured guest artists. So that'll be nice.
Yeah, next year at the Greenville Symphony
Yes.
Orchestra was pretty cool.
We're
so.
fancy.
Yeah, we are. They came to City Hall, and Shanice and Sage was here for that, so it was very exciting. And then my last note, after this, we will be invited to the Travelers Rest Makers to honor Kristen and do a little celebration for her as well. That business is transitioning to a new owner, and so we get to celebrate Kristen Leroy and all her. I think she's had this business for 10 years. Yeah, 10 years, which is kind of a big deal. So, does anyone on council have anything for the good of council? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Great. Thank you, guys. We appreciate all of you being here tonight.